feel ageless. You will receive lifetime full access, and you will join a growing community.
Our community is all about being positive
and building each other up.
On this site, things to expect are various educational resources, exclusive video content, as well as consultation discounts. Before I step in,
Okay, hello. Welcome to our live event. Today, I've got the most special, most important guest, in my opinion, of all time. I've got Joyce Petrowski from R.O.S E, and it's at R.O.S.E Advocacy, Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly.
Correct.
Woo! And I'm so honored to have you here. Joyce and I go back a really long time ago. Our kids played hockey together, which was so fun. And so it's really fun to run into you and learn what you're doing.
Oh, thank
Now,
you as well.
This is the most genuinely sought after situation. You know, we were just talking off screen that this is the most important thing that our little ageless evolvers go through, and it's not talked about a whole lot. Exactly. How did you even get into this? Like start from the beginning. And because you're a nonprofit, she's a nonprofit.
Right.
So talk about this.
So I had left the first nonprofit that I co-founded back in April of 21 and took some time off. And then I started seeing news articles and tapes about people that had been scammed. And so I started doing some research on it, and actually had found out that one of my loved ones had been involved in a romance scam.
Oh my goodness.
And so I talked to her kids about it, and saw how difficult it was for everybody involved, you know, and kind of the hold that the scammer had. You know, he had built that absolute trust. And so my first thought was, and I tell people this, is that I wanted to go find the guy that was doing this.
Of course.
But, you know, then you take a second look at it and go, well, that's not really the best use of your time. That's why the police and the FBI are out there. So I said, what if we could do something to prevent it from happening? Kind of like take their business away from them. So did some research on that, talked to some people at AARP, looked around and said, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start the nonprofit, and it's just going to be focused. Our target population is the 60 plus. And we do 60 plus because that's the way the government breaks down their numbers.
Okay.
They do like 18 to 29, 30 to 39. And when they hit 60, they just do 60 plus.
Okay.
When they put out the IC3 elder fraud report. So,
wow.
So that's the population. Yeah.
And there you go. And so your heart and your passion is around that because of that tragedy.
Right.
And that's what I love, is that you actually took a situation that a loved one that was involved in, and you said, all right, I'm going to prevent it. And I mean, I wish our medical industry would do that. Okay. So scams, what are the most common scams that you like? I want to talk about some common and some uncommon, but what are the most common ones that you're seeing right now?
So with that population, there's a lot of tech support, where they get an email claiming to be like Microsoft or McAfee, you know, the impersonation, or they all of a sudden get a pop-up on their device saying there's a virus, and they just really trick them into actually putting a virus on their machine.
Wow.
And so then they can see everything. So there's that one. There's also the grandparents scam. And this is really dangerous with all the AI that's coming out now. I was just reading a story recently that a mother lost, I believe it was over $1 million
What?
because it was actually her daughter's voice. But it was a scammer that had used her
I just heard
daughter's
about this from one of our
voice.
agents was
Yes.
telling me about
Yes.
this.
So this AI that's coming out it's just crazy.
Oh,
And so, because normally it's somebody else other than the grandkid that's calling and pretending to be the grandchild in trouble and they need help. Don't tell anybody, I need money for this. And, the grandparents don't even think twice. They just send the money. And, but now with the AI, they're making it sound exactly like the grandchild's voice.
well,
Scary.
a thing about the grandchild thing, and this is where it's kind of a bonus because I've talked to my parents and in-laws about this, but my family members all my boys have nicknames for the grandparents. So if somebody calls and says, "Hey, grandma, it's Justin or Zach," they all would know it's not. So
Right.
have a nickname if you
That's
can.
good, but you need to remember though that nickname is personal and confidential information.
Yeah.
You can't put it on social media. You can't put it
Oh,
out
true.
there because, all of a sudden you're on social media with your grandparents and they're referring to you or you're referring to them
Mm,
as that nickname.
good
Well,
point.
it's out there and now
Ah,
they've got it. So you got to be careful.
so good.
Yeah.
So, okay. So those are really good. So how do you, and so that one, the technology
Right. The
ones,
romance scam.
talk about the romance scam. What's that about?
So the scammers love to troll obituaries. So when you think about it, when you're looking at an obituary, whether
Oh.
it's in the actual physical paper or it's online,
Mm,
how much information is in that obituary?
a lot.
A lot of information. So they can find the surviving spouse or partner and they search for them and they'll look all over online accounts, whether they could be playing online games like Words with Friends, and
Ugh.
then they all of a sudden sneak in there. They could be on Facebook or some other social media. They sneak in there. There's just a lot of ways. They find their phone number and then they start calling them. And they don't necessarily come out of the gate asking for money.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they are the surviving partner or spouse is grieving, right? That they're in that emotional state of grief.
Mhm.
And so that's what these scammers are using to their advantage. And they know exactly what to say, how to say it, how to respond to all these different questions. And they take time and they build absolute trust
Wow.
with this person to where they don't want to tell anybody else what's going on. And the scammers even say, well, like if they ask them at some point, they will then start asking them for money for a variety of different reasons and say they have to go to the bank to get it, or they're going to a store to buy gift cards. Well, they want to stay on the phone with them and they're like, all right, they can hear the questions that are being asked and then they tell them what to say. Or
Oh my
if they're not on the
goodness.
phone for whatever reason, they kind of walk through it with them and say, well, the teller or the clerk, they might ask you, why are you buying all of these? You just need to tell them this. And they have a script and they're so good at it. They are so good because when you're grieving a loss of a partner or spouse, and then
Right.
all of a sudden somebody comes into your life and claims lifelong love, and now you have that feeling of being loved again and you're not lonely and they're going to come be with you. I mean, that emotion just takes over.
Oh my goodness.
So it's really sad. It's really sad.
Have you seen a rise in these sort of scams since COVID or?
Well, COVID, there was a lot of scams involving COVID in and of itself with
Okay.
all of the money that the federal government and the state governments were doling out. There was huge scams with that. But I think there was on these specific scams because everybody was pretty much locked in their homes.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't go out, or if they were living in assisted living or independent living places, you know, they really couldn't have visitors and all of that. So then they're a lot more lonely. But the one trend that actually, when the 2022 numbers came out, was that the number of victims actually went down,
Oh.
but the dollar amount went up,
Oh.
which is not good. So
Right.
they're figuring out how to get more money out of less victims,
Wow.
which is really scary.
That is so
Right,
scary.
because that could wipe someone's life savings out.
It has wiped somebody's life
Mhm.
savings out. I had a client
Oh, really?
that happened to.
Wow.
Sweetest man ever. And I don't know how they did it, but they built the trust, and it was a man and another man. Well, it was a group of men, but they started in with the computer and that he had a virus in his computer.
Wow.
And I mean, they started showing up at his house.
Oh,
they
wow.
they started his niece had to jump in. He wound up with a little bit of dementia. His niece had to jump in. He wound up having to move, but they drained his entire 401k and bank account.
Ah,
And they kept telling him that, you know, he needed to pay more money to stay out of trouble. He was in
exactly.
trouble and he was going to get caught, and the IRS was coming after him. And I mean, all of these things. And if they would just, you know, if he would just pay him $10,000, you know, here, and they would coach him
Right,
on the
exactly.
phone, they did the whole thing.
Yeah. And, you know, we actually, in one of our first presentations, you know, we did, a sweet man was sitting there, and he said, you know, about 8 years ago, I got a call from somebody claiming to be from the IRS
Mhm.
saying I owed back taxes. He goes, I didn't think I did, but I was scared. And
Yeah.
so again, there's that emotion. They put them in that, they scare them to make them pay. And actually now, what I've heard recently over the last few years is that they will call and pretend to be the IRS or the Social Security or some government agency that you're in trouble. And if you don't pay this, we're going to have to file an arrest warrant. And
Or a
they're gonna-
lien on your property. I've
yeah,
heard that.
and then they'll get the next phone call that they get. It'll come across their phone like it's the Maricopa County Sheriff's or the Phoenix Police Department or the Scottsdale Police Department. And it'll say, we just received an arrest warrant from the IRS. And so that's how the scammers are evolving and making it seem more real.
Holy cow.
Yes, you know, and so it's crazy.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about the phones. You know, I luckily I have really fabulous clients, and so they'll call me. They'll either text me a picture of something they've gotten in the mail,
Mhm.
or they'll call me with regards to a phone call that they've gotten. You know, there are, as far as I'm concerned, I've had a couple of things where, you know, there's another company that has moved into town claiming to be our company. And they maybe are part of our company, but, you know, they'll say things like, oh, you know, the client will say, well, now do you work with Stacy Weber? And they'll say, oh, yes, I do. I work with her. She's, you know, she's a really good friend of mine. Or, you know, yes, we work together. And so then, you know, sometimes they'll let them come to their house, you know, because
Right,
they're calling on borrowed trust.
exactly.
And so for my people that are watching or that are going to watch this, unless you see a member of my team's name on the website, or it's my daughter-in-law, Shay Weber, nobody else is calling you. So
Right. So what we tell people, we give them a lot of resources and then tips and tools and a checklist that they can take home. And one of the tips and tools is, if you remember back in the early 80s, Ronald Reagan coined a phrase, trust but verify.
yeah.
Well, you have to flip that around. with all the technology today, you can't trust.
Okay.
You have to verify. And by them taking a picture and calling you or sending it to you,
Yeah.
that is their way of verifying whether or not
Good.
it was you that sent it or this is legit or not. And so that's good that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And so because you just never know,
Right.
you know, who it is
Right.
on the other end of the phone.
So what are some red flags that they should look out for when they receive the phone calls or an email? I know from what I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the two most common ways or three most common ways right now is phone, email, and social media. Those are the three ways that are being targeted. Not so much the mail.
Right. I mean, I think when it all started years ago, a lot of it came through the mail. And you
Right.
still can get the whole sweepstakes and all of that stuff saying, you know,
Jeez, I
you won the
remember that.
lottery, or and you might get
Yeah.
a letter in the mail. Remember that long lost relative that you never knew
Yes.
you had, the uncle in another country that died, and now you're to inherit
$1 million. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But you're right, with all the technology, you know, and the smartphones and all of that. So the first red flag is if it's an unexpected phone call,
Okay.
no matter who it's from, if it's unexpected, don't believe anything they say. You know, just hang up and call whatever company, whatever office, whatever person it is to verify that it was them. And, you know, and so that's your way of verifying it, as long as you have the actual phone number for that that company or that person.
Okay.
One thing that we do suggest to people is there's in your phone settings, and it doesn't matter if you have an Apple or an Android phone, it's called silence unknown callers. And what that does is any phone call that you get that does not come from a number that's in your contacts, not the name, it's a number that's in your contacts, automatically goes to voicemail.
Oh, okay.
So it won't even ring into your phone. It'll show up in your call history, and they have the opportunity to leave a voicemail. Now, some people have said, well, you know, doctor's offices, they have like 4 or 5 different phone numbers.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you're expecting the call from the doctor's office, you can go in and toggle it off and then talk to the doctor's office and then toggle it back on. But I did have one lady tell me, she goes, I get a call from the doctor's office and they leave the message. I look at what phone number it was and I just add that to my doctor's contact as an additional phone number. So now it'll ring
Right.
when, you know, when they call on that line.
That's smart.
Yeah. So it that way it doesn't entice anybody to answer the phone. Right.
Right.
And then not know who it is, but then they're trying to scare you or, you know, whatever emotion they want to play with, to get you to talk to them. Because
Right.
the more you engage, the longer you engage, they're going to make you give up personal information or money before you've even realized that you've given it up. So, you know, we tell people, don't worry about being rude and hanging up. They're being rude, trying to take your personal information or your money from you.
Right.
Just hang up.
Right.
So
Oh my goodness.
it's tough.
So you have a checklist available, which I will get and I will put on in this embedded in here or send it on an email.
Sure.
Maybe if I can get that would be amazing.
Right.
So we can share it. And so, you know, because I get so many times where the kids of you all will say to me, you know, my mom, she just shouldn't answer the phone, or, you know, I'll get a call. Somebody called and switched my insurance. And I mean, that's really big right now. The call center people that are calling.
Right.
And
because a lot of times it's a recording, but it sounds like a real person.
Right.
And they'll start out with a question to get you to answer yes to.
Oh, yes. I've heard about the yes thing.
And then your yes is recorded and being used as a yes for some other thing that you didn't agree to.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've had where the call centers of somebody's insurance plan will call, start asking questions, and next thing you know, they're switching somebody's plan,
Oh, geez.
their Medicare plan. So that's been rampant. And luckily, there's going to be some new rules that are going to be going into force to,
Right.
try to prevent that. But
Now, do they only do that during open enrollment, or are they doing that all year round? Because I thought by law with Medicare, you're not allowed to be contacting people to ask them these questions about signing up.
they can
Until it
ask
was
other
open.
questions.
Okay. all right.
During, there's other
But
questions.
again, the scammers and the fraudsters, they're not worried about the law.
Yeah, they don't
right?
care.
Right. They're not worried about it. They're,
Yeah.
they're continually breaking the law.
I know. So talk a little bit more about some of the things that they will do to gain the trust. The trust is really, to me, the most important thing. And it's where I know that a lot of people are winding up losing a lot of money.
They are.
And
right. And
like, what are some ways to
well, so every scam has an emotional component.
right.
Okay. So whether it's a happy
That's
emotion,
good to know.
In love emotion, being scared, fearful emotion that you're going to be arrested, someone's going to get hurt,
Right.
something like that. And so they just continually keep you in that emotional state until they get what they want. And the longer you're in that emotional state with them, the better chance they have of building that absolute trust. That something, good's going to happen, something bad's going to happen. I'm in love with you. I'm going to come be with you. You're not going to be lonely anymore. Just a bunch of different things. I've often thought if we could get into these, because it's not just one person usually sitting behind a computer doing this. It's
A team.
It's a team. It's a huge team of people. And my guess is that they have somebody that knows psychology that's on their team that's coaching them to tell them, well, if they respond this way, then you come back with this. And if they respond this way, you come back with this. And this is the way to build that trust. And when they start reacting like this, you've got them in that trust. And
Yikes. Okay. So what if somebody has fallen victim of a scam, or they're not sure if they're falling victim of a scam? Where should they go? What can they do?
Well, if you know you've fallen victim to a scam, the best thing to do is to report it.
Okay.
And you can go to reportfraud.ftc for Federal Trade Commission.gov. And you can go through online there and fill it out. You could also call your local law enforcement agency. You could call, they have I'm sure the FBI has a it's an emergency, but it's not like a life-threatening, someone's holding you at gunpoint type of emergency.
Unless they are the ones that come to your house.
Right, unless they're the ones that come to your house.
Yeah.
But you could also call the county attorney's office. They have a department that works with it. But the best thing to do is to report it. And if it is like a true emergency, somebody is at your house or said they're coming over to your house, whatever, call 911.
Okay.
Call 911 and just tell them what's going on. Even if the person hasn't gotten to the house yet, call them, because then they're going to be able to take the information. They're going to be able to walk you through it, tell you what you need to do, all of that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And that did happen with at another time, where another person impersonating to be from our office called to set up an appointment with somebody.
Oh, okay.
And she panicked and didn't want anybody coming to her house. And so she did call the sheriff's department, and they reached out to us because they thought that they were with our office. They were not.
Got it.
And
so then I'm sure they sent somebody right over to her house.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to double check and make sure, because your safety and
It's
all
so
of your
important,
information.
It's better to be safe than sorry. So
Yeah. So your biggest words of wisdom, from what I'm understanding, is don't give out any information.
Right, right. Don't give out any information. And it's more than just your social security number, it's your Medicare number, it's your birth date. And when you think about it on social media, a lot of times, even if you don't have your year there, the day's there because everybody's wishing you a happy birthday. And then they're saying, oh, happy 60th birthday. Well, then it's very easy to figure the year out. Right.
Oh
But
gosh.
still, you don't even want to verify it with anybody, so it's a lot more. You think about it, if you've got security questions on your bank accounts, your financial accounts, the answers to those are confidential information. Don't use your pet's name, because I'm sure you've got it someplace on social media, or a lot of people know your pet's name. Or you could use that as the question, but put something totally random that's not really your pet's name, down there for it. But the other thing is,
That's a good one.
so
That's
there's
a really good
the
recommendation.
top 3 tips that we give to people, is that, like we talked about earlier, the emotional component. You really need to be aware of your emotions. And you probably remember back when the boys were playing hockey, the coaches would always say, if you're upset with me about something or whatever, just please take 24 hours
Yep.
and then come talk to me. Well, the reason is because you've slept on it
Mm-hmm.
and you see it in a different perspective. Right.
Right.
And so you might not need to talk to them, or it might have changed and evolved. Well, then that's the second one, is make sure you have a trusted person that you can go to and you can talk to them and explain what's going on. A lot of times when you say what's going on out loud and you hear yourself say it, then you're like, oh, that didn't make any sense. I just heard myself say it. Other
Interesting.
times you're still in that emotional state. And if you've got your trusted person, they're in a rational state and they can help you walk through it and help you understand that this is really a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Don't answer those calls anymore. Don't respond to those emails, or, whatever it is that's going on. And then the whole verify before you can trust anybody.
Right.
You need to verify who you're talking to, what they want, what the situation is, and ways to do that. A lot of scammers love to impersonate the big companies like Amazon and FedEx and Ace Hardware and McAfee and Microsoft. And
Mm-hmm.
if you really think you have a virus on your computer and you have a trusted person that fixes your devices that you trust, call them and say, I think I might have a virus. I need your help.
Yeah.
Or if you don't, call somebody you trust and say, I need a recommendation for someone to come fix this.
Yeah.
Or if you think somebody got into your Amazon account, get on the verified Amazon website and find their customer service number, or log into your account the way you would normally log into it and check your order history, or call Amazon from that verified phone number and ask the questions. Those are ways to verify without clicking on those links, opening those attachments, giving the information out over the phone. Even with your financial accounts, another suggestion is, we really want people to have multi-factor authentication enabled.
Mm-hmm. Two-step
authentication, right? Because if a scammer gets your username and password, they're for one account, they're going to use it on thousands of accounts, hoping that you've reused the same combination. And if you reused it and now they're in one of your financial accounts, they still can't get into it unless they have that code. But they are going to try very hard to get that code from you. You're going to get a phone call. They're going to be impersonating that bank, that brokerage firm, whatever it is, and saying something's wrong with your account. Again, they're going to try to scare you. I need to verify it's you, so I'm going to send you a code.
Oh,
and
my
then you
goodness.
get the code and you read it back to them, and the next thing you get is a notification that your password's been changed. So again, it was the unexpected phone call saying that something is, so those unexpected phone calls, you just hang up. And if you think something's going on, you call that company with a verified phone number.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when Joyce is saying the verified phone number, so never go into the email that you get
Right.
or the phone number that just called you
Or the text message.
or the text message.
Right.
Go directly to the company's website and contact me and find their phone number
Right.
or their email address. Because I get those all the time.
Yes.
Where it's and even a mutual friend of ours, Craig, who just had
Yes.
and he's like the head of all of this Google. He's got a Google business.
Right.
And he fell prey to an Ace
Hardware
Hardware
survey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Survey.
He said, I shop at Ace Hardware all the time.
Yeah.
And so he got a survey from them, and
Thinking,
it was take the
woohoo!
survey and he could get whatever the product was for a discount. And so he took the survey, put his credit card in. Within an hour, he had $1,500 of charges on
Yeah.
his credit card. And
Yeah.
he goes, I'm someone who's on the computer 80 hours a week, and I fell for something. So
Right.
again, the emotional thing. Yay, I can get this what I've wanted for $7 or $10.
Right.
Sure, I'll take a survey. I shop with you all the time.
Exactly.
Got to be careful.
Yeah, don't. And another thing that I personally do is I have a credit card with a really low balance that I use for I think I got scammed for these free sunglasses. I'm not sure if I got scammed. I'm pretty sure I did. But it said, pick out free sunglasses, these pairs, and all we ask is that you pay for the shipping, the cost of the shipping, to be an ambassador for our company. And so I put in my credit card number, I paid for the shipping, and I've never received the sunglasses. I keep forgetting to turn that in, but and it was a large amount for the shipping, but I thought, well, I'm getting the sunglasses for free, so why not? And still it was $59, but I did put it on a credit card with a really low balance. But
right. Yeah. I mean, again, it's one of those things. If it sounds too good to be true,
it's probably too good to be true.
Probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
There's really isn't much, if anything at all, that's free.
Yeah.
These days. So.
I know we have a question.
Oh, okay.
And the question is, are there gold and silver scams out there, like to purchase gold and silver? Do you know about any of that? I have
not heard of any specifically, but my initial gut reaction to that is when cryptocurrency first came out, they started scams with cryptocurrency. So my gut reaction to that is, even if I haven't heard of any, I'm sure there are some out there. So I would just be very careful. Again, buying gold and silver, make sure you're buying it from a reputable source. You trust the person you're buying it from, and stuff like that. Just you can go on Google and put in you could put in buying gold and silver scams or purchasing gold and silver coins scam. Just add scam or fraud or something like that after what you're looking for and see what comes up.
Okay.
Because if there is a scam out there, somebody is unfortunately already fallen victim, and it's probably out there on the web someplace. That's another way to verify, to just see what comes up. You could also put the person's name in, or the name of the company, that's selling it, and see what comes up.
And another thing that I've had personally happen is just make sure that if you do click on any links, it is verified that it is that person's information. Cox is a big one that I'm constantly getting phishing emails or scam emails from, like your Cox account is something, with your Cox account. Click the link here to verify all your information.
Yeah, no.
And you can always, if you click on the sender, if you click on Cox's name that is sent the email,
the email, the sender.
Yeah, the sender.
And so sometimes you don't even have to click on it. You might just have to hover
or
over
hover.
It. But sometimes you do have to click on it, and it'll show you the actual email address
that it came from.
Exactly.
And it'll be like Marsha
something or another at
Yeah.
gmail.com.
Yeah.
Most businesses don't of the large businesses, Cox, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, Ace Hardware, they don't use Gmail for their email addresses.
Oh, that's good info.
Now, I have seen some small local, companies, when they've given me their business card, it has had something at gmail.com. And I've said, we tell people,
don't do that.
when you look at the sender's email address, if it's from a gmail.com and it's supposed to be a company, you better be careful. So,
and mine never comes from a Gmail account, friends. It only comes from my enrollmentbenefitshub.org. So, or American Senior Benefits.
Yeah, you have to be very, very careful. Another thing you can do with it on the website is in the top left-hand corner by the URL, it'll have a lock sign, which means that it's a secure site, or you could look at the HTTP, and if it has an S after it, that means it's a secure site.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
It means it's a secure site. If a scammer wanted to, they could set up a domain and buy the security, so you just still have to be careful with that. But a lot of antivirus software, if you have that on your devices, if you're getting into a site that's not secure, they'll come up and tell you, we really don't think you should move forward into this site. It's not secure. You could be opening yourself up to viruses and stuff like that. That's why it's always good to have an antivirus software on all of your devices, because that's, if you get that pop-up or that email saying you have a virus, well, just go run your antivirus software.
Yeah.
Say, I want to run it, and it's going to tell you if you have a virus.
Okay. And what do you do if you do wind up with a virus? You just
talk to your trusted person.
Okay.
That normally the antivirus software will, when they say that we've detected this, it'll have a button to say fix now, or, if you don't feel comfortable pushing that button, you could then, if you have your trusted person that, you allow to fix your devices, then I would call them and talk it through with them and see, and make sure they feel that it's okay for you to push that button.
And sadly, make sure that your trusted person really is a trusted person.
Right.
Because I've also heard of the trusted person that's fixing the
unfortunately.
computers.
Yeah.
Also went in and did some nefarious badness.
It's unfortunately that does happen.
Yeah.
You can just go out and, search the name of the person or the name of the company and see what comes up under reviews.
Google reviews.
Because let me tell you, a lot of people, it seems to be just human nature. When you've had a bad experience, the review's going to be out there. People are less apt to put a good review out there. I'm seeing a lot more good reviews, but people just, when it's a bad review, it's like, I'm going to put this out there to let everybody know, what my experience was. So
yeah, with those larger things. Well, this has been really enlightening, awesome information. Joyce, I've already told her that she's going to be my on the regular person that's going to be coming to visit, because anytime there's anything going on, I want to make sure that you all are in the know. And especially as we get closer, we're in May right now. And especially as we get closer, like you were talking about with the annual enrollment period, that's when it heightens so intensely.
Right.
So Joyce will for sure be back. She'll be a guest. So
Can I have 3 more really quickly?
Of course. Yes. Of course.
So a long time ago, there was check washing, where they would scammers would steal your checks out of your mailbox, or they would print, fake checks but the check washing is they'll steal them out of your mailbox, or the blue USPS mailboxes that kind of just sit on the street corners, not the ones that are like right at the post office, but the ones that are just sitting by themselves.
Oh, I just heard about this.
Yes. So the USPS has noticed that on Sundays, on holidays, and after the last collection of the day, that if there's items in those boxes, that's when they have a tendency to be broken into and stolen.
Yes.
And so they say, make sure if you're going to use those boxes, to make sure it's before the last collection. Don't put anything in those boxes on a holiday or on Sundays. when the post office is not
Great.
open because they sit there for longer. And the whole check washing is coming back. And I actually just watched a video on how easy it is. So the scammer will, if they get a hold of your check, they just put tape over the signature so that stays on the check, but then they use chemicals that then wash the ink off the check.
Wow.
And then they take it and write it to whomever themselves for whatever dollar amount, and so the best thing for that is if you can use a gel ink pen, because when that gel dries, it's supposed to dry right in to the check paper. And so that's what I've read in these articles and seen on these videos, that those gel ink pens are the best things to use. They are so much more difficult for chemicals to take that ink off of the checks.
Okay, fabulous.
And then if you are,
because I know you're still writing checks, many of you.
I still write.
I still write checks too. I'm like, dang,
I know.
that's good for me.
And then if you're out in a public area and you find that you need to charge any of your devices, don't take your USB cord and plug it into the public USB ports. And it's, restaurants, airports, airplanes, all these different public places, because those are so easy for scammers to put something in there that then will read your device. Have your own plug that will plug into an outlet that has the USB port on the other side of it, but that's yours. And then plug it in your USB into that.
So you can still use the pronged plug thing.
Right. It's just not
the
a lot of like I was just traveling recently and you see everybody on those taller tables in the airport and they have the little USB ports that are
and
public,
you just plug it in.
No, don't use those.
Wow.
Yes.
What about the credit card reading thing? Is that an issue of people reading people's credit cards as they're walking by? I hear
it's so hard because to know where someone's credit card information was taken.
Okay.
I mean, it could happen in a restaurant.
No.
When they take your card and take it away to run it, it could happen, by walking by somebody. Cause I know they, and I don't know if they still make them, but I have one of those wallets that's supposed to have something in it, infrared, that's supposed to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
But with all the technology today, I'm sure there is a way that can be done. Credit card companies know they're going to write off losses every year.
Okay.
But the best thing to do with your credit cards is to put notifications, alerts on your credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So for a certain dollar amount, or just have every transaction you get notified, because then if you're the only one on the account, you can look at it and go, okay, that wasn't me. Someone's got my number. You can call them right away and put a stop to it, instead of waiting till you get your statement and they might have had fun with that card for 20 days.
Yeah.
And you didn't know about it. Not that the credit card company, isn't going to reverse them. It's just going to be a lot more difficult. It's going to take you a lot more time, a lot more hassle to get all those charges reversed.
Gotcha. Man. Yeah. Okay. Well, Joyce, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And if you have any other questions, there's some more questions.
You have good eyesight. I can't see.
Well, now, are there? Oh, thank you. Are there still gas station pump scams?
There are. They're still out there. One thing I would say, if you're going to the gas station and you're putting your card in there, is just, put your fingers on the where you put your card in and just give it a tug and see if it comes out. Because if somebody put a card reader in there, it should be pretty easy for you to pull it out. The ones that are actually part of the gas pumps are really secure, so you shouldn't be pulling that out. But if somebody inserted a credit card reader, it should be fairly easy for you to pull it out if you just give it a little tug.
Okay.
But yeah, unfortunately, they still happen.
Ugh.
And I mean, you have to be careful of, ATMs too, especially the ones that aren't by the banks. There's ATMs that kind of just sit out by themselves. And I personally will not use those.
Me neither. My nail salon now has one. And I mean,
it's convenience.
Yeah.
You know what, with all this technology, it's been convenience, but with convenience comes, you know, you got to be a little, there's risk
More
involved,
savvy.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, all right. So those are the questions. And again, I really appreciate your time. I
Absolutely.
appreciate your knowledge.
Yeah.
This is so helpful. And if somebody, has fallen prey to a scammer, or you feel like you're going to fall prey to a scammer, or you're not sure, where can people find you?
So the website is roseadvocacy.org. And there's the contact us page on there, but it also has our phone number and email address.
Okay.
We also on the top left-hand corner have links to our Facebook and LinkedIn page. Outside of the last couple weeks, we usually are posting daily with a lot of information about different scams, different tips, different tools.
So
you
follow
can
them on
follow us.
Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that the golf tournament is over,
Ah.
this week, it's one of my goals is to get back and on the social media and get all that stuff on
Good.
there. So
Good. Yeah, for helpful information. Obviously, those that do reach out to me with their text messages or voicemails or emails about scamming or scams, you're never over abusing that. We have
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
relationship, and I'm here to protect you, which is why I bring Joyce on here to share with you what's going on. So that's so important.
Yep.
The
They-
fact that we have our trust is
Yep,
so
they want to
important.
verify that it's you or someone
Yeah.
from your office first.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, Joyce, thanks for your time. And
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate all of you. Thank you for your time. And may you all go out and have a scam-free rest of your week.
All right.
So thank you.
Thanks.
All right.